After a very long 3-year wait that felt like several lifetimes, Matt Reeves has finally finished the script for The Batman Part 2, and that can only mean one thing. At any moment, Reeves could start dropping cast announcement gifs on Twitter like breadcrumbs to starving ducks as he teases us with what the highly anticipated sequel has to offer. As it stands right now, we have absolutely zero clue what he's cooking up in the film. The story is being kept under lock and key to the point where only 7 people have read it, and despite how many times I've tried to break in and steal it, none of them leave their windows unlocked. Above all else, I am just dying to know if Robin will appear in the film because I think he's a necessity at this point. Despite being the most important character to the Batman lore not named Batman, Robin has had a very rough time in live action. The last time we saw him in a movie was in The Dark Knight Rises, but that barely counts. So it was really in Batman and Robin when he had nipples. Yeah, they make me really uncomfortable too. A movie so bad that it killed the idea of Robin in live action for decades to come. But I think it's long overdue for that to change, and The Batman Part 2 is the perfect place to do it. Let me see those acrobats fall, Matthew. I will cheer in the theater as that boy is orphaned! I'm so sorry, I don't know what that was. It seems like there's a constant war on whether or not Robin should join the Batman epic crime saga, but the answer has always been obvious to me. Yes! 100% absolutely yes. You saw the thumbnail, it's a big old resounding yeah. I honestly don't understand why you wouldn't want to see that. For 85 years, Robin has played a foundational role in who Batman is as a character, and we have gone way too long without seeing the dynamic duo in live action. It also helps that there has never been a Batman who needs a Robin more than Pattinson's. It feels like that first film did everything in its power to get Bruce ready to sign those adoption papers. The first movie strongly hinted at that idea as they told Bruce's entire origin story in a single glance, staring at the mirror's orphan son with this sense of shared empathy. He knows what it's like to be in that exact same position all too well, and Pattinson does some insane acting with his eyes alone as he gives this longing glance of familiarity. God, I can't believe there are people out there who think he should have white eyes instead of that. Well, I don't think that kid's gonna become Robin because that would be a very dumb idea. It's very clearly setting up Bruce as this empathetic character and someone who wants to go out of his way to help other orphans. The natural next step for him is to take Dick and there has to be a better way to word that. To take Dick in and give him the best upbringing he can, while also fighting crime in a sick costume. And there is such an easy way to do that. After the events of the Riddler's flood, Gotham could have an event raising funds for victims of its destruction that includes a circus. Bruce, realizing that he actually needs to appear as Bruce Wayne more often to help the city in ways that Batman never could, should attend that event as a way to draw publicity to it. It's a very easy in-universe explanation for why a recluse like Bruce would bother himself with the circus, especially since I'm sure he's so sick of clowns by now. I especially love the thought of his presence attracting the wrong kind of attention there, as an attempt on his life directly leads to the Flying Graysons becoming the Falling Graysons and painting the pavement with their blood in a beautiful masterpiece. I'm getting way into this whole murder thing. I need to calm down. That sense of guilt could give Bruce the motivation he needs to step out of his comfort zone and finally be the change he wants to see in the world, opening himself up to the idea of family again and making sure that Dick doesn't go down the same road he did. Bruce has made a lot of mistakes in life. He knows what the burden of vengeance feels like. Only he would be able to stop Dick from taking it out on the world to prevent him from turning out as jaded and isolated as he did. The Batman ended with Bruce's entire worldview shifting. He caved a guy's skull in and had the jarring realization that vengeance won't change the past, his or anyone else's. He needs to become a symbol of hope, a guiding light that shows people there's a force of good fighting on their behalf to make this city a better place. If he is to truly become more, he needs to act on it and help Dick do things the right way. But don't have Bruce adopt Dick right on the spot. I think there needs to be an even more poignant moment when he sees Dick parallel his journey. He could save him one night when he gets in over his head trying to get vengeance on the people who killed his parents. Seeing that kind of raw emotion and desperation would be the wake-up call that, no matter what happens, Dick is determined to go down this path. It's now up to Bruce to step in and make sure that his scars don't destroy him, help Dick survive, and then transform him into someone who has the power to endure and the strength to fight for the greater good. It even builds off the established themes of the Batman first the Batman in a very organic way. A huge part of that movie was all about corruption and how the system fails orphans. The Riddler acted as a twisted mirror to Bruce, showing him what Gotham does to someone in that position when they're victims of corruption. He's abandoned and neglected, forcing him down the path of becoming a monster who only finds solace in his riddles, creating these puzzles that only he knows the answer to as a way to cope with the unanswerable question of how the world failed him. Then there's Bruce, someone who was very clearly a victim of corruption as it directly led to his parents' death. You all know the origin, right? I don't need to recap this. The Batman had so many characters who were in desperate need of parental figures. Themes of abandonment and corruption were all over that movie, and now Robin is a chance to look at those concepts through a much more hopeful lens. Bruce can finally break the cycle and be the parent he wished he had growing up, all while making sure that Dick doesn't end up like the Riddler. Speaking with his actions as he directly steps in to make one important life better in ways that only he knows how, passing on all the lessons he learned over the years to Dick as he turns him into the boy wonder. I really hope I've said Dick enough times that it finally sounds normal and YouTube doesn't assassinate me. Robin is so incredibly important to Batman because he's effectively Bruce's chance at redemption. He sees a lot of Dick in himself and vice versa. Nope, that still doesn't sound normal. Bruce can't just go from a vengeful hero to a hopeful icon overnight. Vengeance is too woven into his personality and the way he thinks that it would almost be impossible to change that quickly. He doesn't know any other way to operate outside of fear. Inspiration is a concept he is entirely unfamiliar with. If he's able to get hands-on experience being there to inspire Dick, it's a way for Bruce to start his healing journey. He's effectively teaching Dick the same lessons he needs to hear himself as they learn together how to operate in the hellscape that is Gotham. Bruce will basically do anything but go to therapy, but this way he can finally put the self-destructive side of himself to rest as he helps another kid avoid all the trauma he went through, using Robin as a way to transition himself from a violent myth to a trusting guardian of Gotham. It is exactly the thing he needs most in life and feels like the most obvious direction to take his character in the sequel. It's also a very natural way to develop that Bruce Wayne persona more. He has to be an actual father figure and someone who exists outside of the Batcave. Dick would be forcing Bruce into situations that Alfred couldn't have gotten him into with a gun. Bruce would finally come out of his shell and start to tear down all those walls he built to hide his emotions, becoming more and more vulnerable as he gets in touch with his humanity through Dick. And in doing so, he could start to see the benefits of being a public figure. While the event may have ended in tragedy, he could see how much money his presence brought to the circus and how life-changing that would be for flood victims. A terrible tragedy turned into a moment of togetherness as Gotham actually came through for each other for once, all because of Bruce. It's a really powerful way to help him grow and realize the power he holds in both sides of his life. Dick wouldn't just be making him a better superhero, but also a better man. The Batman set up the easiest layup of all time, so I really hope Reeves takes advantage of it. Robin is the best possible character they could introduce at this point to influence Bruce and continue him down this path of healing. But here's the thing. I know a lot of people are going to say that it's too soon for Robin, but come on man, you don't really believe that, right? I constantly see arguments online that now isn't the right time to introduce him, but I couldn't disagree more. Robin has been a fundamental part of the Batman mythos from the beginning. Get this, Batman's first appearance was in Detective Comics 27 in March of 1939. Now try to guess how long it took for Robin to make his debut. I'll cut you off there, because it was only 11 issues later. The Boy Wonder's first appearance was in Detective Comics number 38, which dropped in March of 1940. Batman couldn't even make it a year without having Robin by his side. And to put that into perspective for you, the Joker debuted in Batman number 1 month after Robin. Dick Grayson predates the Joker and is infinitely more important to Batman's characterization, but despite that, Robin is hardly anywhere to be seen in live action nowadays, while the market is oversaturated with Jokers. I can't go 5 minutes without seeing his stupid face, okay? I'm not trying to see the Joker anymore, I'm trying to see Dick. We're gonna move on before anyone says anything, okay? While the exact year he links up with Robin in the comics is always changing and very confusing in the New 52, please don't try and make me explain how all of this happens over the span of 6 years, but the general consensus is that Bruce adopts Dick in year 2 or 3. So let's compare that to where Pattinson is in the timeline. wouldn't you know it, Bruce has been Batman for 2 years at the start of the Batman. It's almost like this was carefully planned all along to get Bruce exactly where he needs to be so he can start his very long journey of adopting Robins. The Batman timeline in the comics is very fluid, so I'm not trying to say that they need to stick to this date as if it's some kind of canon event, but it's about time that somebody shut down the idea of it being too early for Robin, because this is exactly when he links up with Batman. If anything, it is long overdue for those Graysons to fall to their deaths in the most spectacular fashion. I'm very sorry, I've got it all out of my system now, but I'm afraid they do need to die if we want Pattinson to stay on track for his Robin. Don't let these modern adaptations trick you. Batman is not a solo character. Sure, he absolutely can be, and there is a validity to telling stories where he's alone. Some of my favorite Batman stories have him completely isolated, but to only ever adapt Batman like that misses out on the vast majority of his character and 80 years worth of stories. There's always been this anti-Robin agenda online, and for the life of me, I will never understand it. There isn't a single person more important to the character of Batman than Robin. Without him, Bruce is stuck in a cycle of solitude where he isn't able to grow long term. Robin, and by extension the entire Bat family, are hugely important to his growth and always act as the next natural step in Bruce's evolution from a broken loner to a loving guardian. If you don't like the idea of Robin, then I'm sorry to break it to you, but I don't think you completely like Batman as a character. Like, yeah, I guess you could do an adaptation where he doesn't, but you'd be taking away half of what makes the character so interesting in the first place. And for what? Because you think having a sidekick is silly? Buddy, he's a billionaire who dresses up like a bat and fights crime. The concept of the character is inherently silly, but in execution, good writers are able to take these ideas and approach them with an earnest sense of sincerity and practicality to make it work in live action. Just because our only frame of reference for Robin in live action is this, does not mean it's indicative of how Robin always is. He is a fascinating character in his own right that is dealing with such a specific kind of trauma that only Bruce Wayne can relate to. I don't see how that's too silly of a concept to put in a film in the slightest. It feels like people only ever look at Robin from a surface level glance of how irresponsible it is for Bruce to adopt a kid and turn him into this sidekick. And like, yeah, when you approach it from that bad faith perspective, then of course it sounds dumb. But how is it any dumber than Bruce doing the same thing while dressed as a bat? Dick was gonna be out doing that anyways. Bruce is just there to guide him in the right direction and protect him. And also, that angle is another interesting approach you can take with these characters. For as much as having a Robin will benefit Bruce, he is not even remotely emotionally prepared to be put in a situation like that. He is in way too over his head and has no clue what he's doing trying to raise a kid. But that's the point of that decision. He makes an empathetic choice for the greater good in spite of the fact that he's not prepared to make this kind of a life decision, and it shows just how well-intentioned he is. So what if it doesn't make logical sense? If characters were to act as pragmatically as possible all of the time, they'd all be boring. I love it when my Batman has flaws and we see him making mistakes and learning. Having Robin by his side is the easiest way they can do that. Lean into how questionable the choice is when you're building out their dynamic and show audiences why Bruce needs Dick. I walk into it every single time. It just screams a lack of creativity to write a character as important as Robin out of the picture for the sheer sake of not understanding him. Most of the time, people just think he looks goofy next to Batman in his bright red, green, and yellow costume, and that's enough for them to disregard the most exciting thing Batman has ever done. And while that's been explained away many times with really interesting reasoning, people still refuse to engage. You can always just change the costume as well if that's what it takes to get him in a Batman movie again, but I think the juxtaposition of a bright and hopeful kid next to a depressed adult dressed in black is interesting enough to warrant it on a thematic level, especially if it leads to Batman adopting a blue and gray suit because of it, but that's a story for another time, okay? People are really not ready for that one. I will say, there is one argument I do almost understand to a degree, and it's that The Brave and the Bold is already going to be a Batman and Robin story, and that the Batman should stay alone to keep things different. First of all, The Brave and the Bold is basically a concept of a plan right now, so let's not bet everything on that. But more importantly, they are completely different scenarios due to where they take place in the timeline, and that is why it is so easy for them to coexist at the same time. The Brave and the Bold is going to pick up with Damian as Robin and the Bat family as the status quo, while the Batman would only be focusing on young Dick. Oh god, okay, you know what? We're done with this bit before I accidentally get put on a watch list. Due to the DCU starting 15 years in, we are missing out on pivotal years of Batman's growth that the Batman could easily give us to scratch that itch. His dynamics with Damian and Dick are so drastically different that the stories they're going to tell with them will easily stand apart. The brave and the bold can reap the benefits of a fully fledged family, while the Batman shows us the early days of Bruce learning to open himself up to the possibility of being part of a family again. I don't see why those stories can't run parallel to each other, and don't tell me that it'll confuse audiences. Anyone who gets confused by that is weak and won't survive the winter. Also, having 2 Batman adaptations that feature Robin would be huge PR in showing why he's so important to Batman's character. Batman without Robin is like Holmes without Watson. You can tell a story with just one of them, but it feels incomplete, and you're missing out on a truly dynamic duo. Batman is so much more interesting when Robin is around, and I've never seen a take on the Caped Crusader who has needed that kinship more than Pattinson. And hey, if that's not for you, that's cool. You've been able to enjoy 7 Batman movies without Robin by his side, but it's important to recognize that you're a fan of a very specific take on Batman from the movies, not the Batman in the comics that we have needed to see in live action for years. Reeves' take on the character is the closest we may ever get to embodying what Batman represents, so I think it's only natural we see him finally reunite these 2 crime fighters. Hell, Matt Reeves himself has gone on the record talking about how much he loves Batman and Robin. Not the movie, nobody likes that one. But both of them together helped foster Reeves' love for the Batman mythos.
You know, when I was a kid, Adam West was my Batman and Burt Ward was my Robin. And that I just thought it was, I don't know, I was just so drawn to those guys doing what they were doing and driving that car and having all those gadgets and trying to think about whether or not there's something interesting to do as a filmmaker with that.
If he's open to the idea of introducing Robin, then it feels like a no-brainer to me and something we'd all be better off because of. We can't let this be the last time Robin suited up in live action. Okay, please. Oh my god, Titans exists. I completely forgot about that until now. You know what, that might be for the better actually. But why don't you let me know if you want to see Robin in The Batman Part 2. I'd genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm hitting you with the nastiest Arkham combo ever. I'm talking the kind that makes your body ragdoll across the room, so subscribe to keep your bones intact.